ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Federico Show. Today, we're just going to be talking about the National Football League draft that concluded this past weekend. First, let's put my phone on Do Not Disturb because there's a lot of sports going on tonight. As we're recording, that's the CFL draft. We're going to talk. I'm going to talk about that on Sunday's episode. We're probably going to talk about that on Sunday's episode from Monday. I might have my CFL. Anthony Gross might join the program for Monday's episode or sometime next week. But this episode, we're just here to talk ball. The National Football League, the draft, like I just said earlier, just concluded. No intro, no nothing. I think we're just going to get right into it, right? I think we should just start talking about ball, right?
Let's do it. I'm down. I'm down. It was a good draft and there's lots to unpack. So,
There's a lot to unpack. Um, I'm gonna ask you, Nick. We talked about it a couple days ago too. You made a whole list of team grades out of the draft.
mhm.
Um, I'm first gonna ask you this. Who was your favorite team that drafted so well? First, let me reword this for the Instagram clip. Here we go. Alrighty, Nikki Taz. Who was your favorite team in the draft?
I thought Cleveland had the best draft out of everybody. I gave them an A plus. In my tiers, I had four tiers, and then tier one being the best, tier four being not so good. But I had the Cleveland Browns at the top of my tier one list, just because I felt like for like the first time in a really long time, I felt like they drafted really smartly. And that's not to say that they haven't, because even though the Browns haven't been a great team, like they've been pretty good at drafting. Like for not for nothing, but I think this draft, um, like the way they moved back from six to nine, and everybody knew that they were probably going to go tackle with their first round pick, and they got probably the best tackle in the draft who can move freakishly well for how big of a human being he is, all while trading down only three spots and still getting the guy that they want. I like their pick, the Fano pick. I like the Concepcion pick as well, addressing wide receiver. He's going to be your prototypical Z guy. He's fast. He had a lot of drops in college, which is something to be concerned about. But I think when we evaluate Casey Concepcion before the season starts, we got to look at who's going to be throwing him the ball, and we don't know who that is for the Cleveland Browns right
Could it
now.
be either Deshaun Watson, Shador Sanders? Um, who knows? Maybe Dylan Gabriel shocks people. Maybe Taylon Green, who they drafted late in the
Yeah,
draft, shocks people. I doubt that one, but it's probably going to be either Deshaun Watson or Shador Sanders, obviously. But they're paying Deshaun Watson a buttload of cash, so
yeah,
he's probably going to get the nod.
and they took Boston as well in the second round, and Boston was like viewed as the first wide receiver to get taken in the second round after day one ended, when there were still quite a bit of really good wide receivers still on
And,
the board. Like Elijah Surratt was as well, but he
and
went.
in this draft. We're talking about how the offensive talent wasn't there, but compared to next year's, this offensive draft it wasn't even bad. I really think there was a lot of talent left on the table after day two, so going into day three, and a lot of teams made a lot of great decisions, like Michael Trigg out of Baylor getting signed to the Dallas Cowboys as a UDFA. Shocking. He should have been drafted. Don't know how he didn't get drafted,
Yeah.
but that's just in some aspects on both sides of the ball. There was a lot of talent left up for grabs.
Yeah, I agree. But even though there was a lot of talent left up for grabs, and like a lot of these other teams that had clear needs on their roster that just didn't draft who a lot of people thought they were going to, or address the needs earlier on, Cleveland did all that. And I think my favorite pick that they got was the Emmanuel McNeil Warren pick, who was viewed by a lot of people as the second best safety in this draft class because Caleb Downs was viewed as the best. And he is obviously a freak of nature. He can just process information super quickly. But
In the
the
third
fact that they
round,
get
and
Emmanuel,
in
and
the third
outside of
round,
the top 50, they get him. They get
yeah,
him in the top 50. That is a crazy good value pick. And then the Jefferson pick from Alabama, good linebacker. Taylon Green is interesting because He's very athletic, and he's like a very I don't even know how to describe him. Like he played at Arkansas and he was up and down. Like statistically, he was up and down. He made decisions that he probably shouldn't have made, but his raw talent was just off the charts. And then looking at him and looking at who he could be in the pros, I think that's a really good pick for them as well. But yeah, in terms of just who I think had the best draft overall for with all the selections they had, where those selections were, and then what they ended up doing with those selections. To me, it was Cleveland at the top of the list of all 32 NFL teams. They did what they needed to do, and they didn't do the stupid thing like Arizona taking Jeremiah Love. Not at all like a smart thing to do. Cleveland took Fano, who is going to be a plug and play starter from day one. They addressed the wide receiver room by getting not one but two receivers who were both first round worthy, even though they took one of them in the second. They got one of the 10 best defensive prospects in this draft in McNeil Warren outside of the top 50. And then they also addressed linebacker, center, and they got Taylon Green just in case that just so they can build the quarterback room a bit more. So I gotta say, like, there is nothing that I can pick apart and say that Cleveland did wrong. It would just be nitpicking. And I think that they're going to be quite a bit better on the field. Not saying they're going to win their division, but they're going to be better than they were last year. And it's going to be evident probably from the jump.
Let's find out who's going to be commanding that offense soon. I think it should just be Shador. I think it's time for Deshaun Watson to get cut loose. But too much money, so they're probably going to go with the guy who they're paying all that money to.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Eagles draft for a second here. You had them at an A grade. I think they drafted tremendously on the offensive side of ball,
Yeah.
especially it is a team need. It is an area that they really want to build up again, or they need to build up. With Mekhi Lemon, they drafted in the first round. Eli Stowers too out of Vanderbilt, that tight end, and they go offensive tackle Markel Bell. And just for some, just for I don't know what it is, just to back up Jalen Hurts, Cole Payton out of NDSU, North Dakota State
Yes,
University.
sir.
I really like their draft. Went all offense. Um, what do you think about that? Eagles draft.
I their aggressiveness to take Mekhi Lemon was really shocking to me in a good way, not at all in a negative way. I know I said it the last time we were on the show together that I thought that them taking Mekhi Lemon was actually an indication that AJ Brown was going to stay because my argument was that Mekhi Lemon would attract even more attention as a Z receiver because Z receivers are responsible for a lot of pre-snap motioning and things like that. So he's always going to be on the move. And I thought that just his presence was going to take away some double teams and some tough coverage matchups for AJ Brown. But I think I've reverted a little bit on that. I've been listening to a lot of things and I've been reading a lot, and the direction that I get, which they want to go down, is that Mekhi Lemon is going to be their number one or number two guy. And they are preparing for AJ Brown to be a New England Patriot in a few months. But I just love Lemon. I think that his personality fits Philly. Like he's gritty. He's a bit weird too. Like he's just a weird, strange guy, but he's so good and he's so much fun to watch. He creates separation better than most receivers in the NFL. He's got quick twitch. He's fast. He's got great feet. He gets off the line of scrimmage in his route very well, and he also hits his breaks well, also. I just like the way that he plays so tough. And even for a guy who's not 6 feet, he can go up there and make contested catches with some of the best receivers in this draft. So I like how the Eagles planned for the future in taking Lemon, who's probably going to be an AJ Brown replacement. The Markel Bell pick, the tackle from Miami, that's probably going to be somewhat of a Lane Johnson, excuse me, replacement type of pick. Where, granted, he may not be Lane Johnson's permanent replacement, but Howie Roseman is looking towards the future for when a lot of these guys who were there for the first Super Bowl and the second Super Bowl they're older now, and this team is, 2 or 3 years ago they had a tremendous offensive line, but that offensive line is now in need of some replacements. So I think that was the thinking behind the Markel Bell pick, even Micah Morris going in the sixth round out of Georgia. I like how active they always are. They're always active. Philadelphia is always looking to move up in the draft so they can take someone who a lot of people think they won't take, but Howie's always got a plan for his players, and I think they're just so prepared before the draft in knowing that in case this doesn't happen, we're going to take this guy. They have so many secondary plans and secondary options for how they fit into the Eagles' like philosophy going forward that it just makes them seem like such a well-oiled machine compared to everybody else. So I had them at an A just for the quality of picks that they got, going up and getting Lemon, who you could ask a bunch of different people and they'll tell you different answers as to who they think is the best receiver in this draft. It's just about what type of receiver you like. And
I would give Mekhi Lemon probably the third best receiver in this draft class, just behind Jordan Tyson.
I
And
I would probably give him second, and that would just be because I would give Tyson three just because Tyson has had clear injury issues in college, which we don't know if they're going to subside in the NFL. But Carnell Tate has the physical abilities and also the demeanor where he was never the number one guy at Ohio State. He was still putting up 15 to 1600 yards in his last few years. And obviously, we know that he was a very proficient 50-50 ball guy, but I think Lemon fits in better with the Eagles system than those two guys would have. So, and
he
the
fits
Cole
in
Payton
better.
pick, what
He
if they
fit.
use Cole Payton as a Taysom Hill
Wait,
type?
wait. He fits in. Denzel, I don't know. Mekhi Lemon fits in a lot better than what they would have done with Denzel Boston. Because there was a lot of talks that Denzel Boston could have been the third receiver off the board after Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate. But no, I think Mekhi Lemon fits into this team perfectly. And he's going to be paired up right beside Devontae Smith. And let's see what they do with A.J. Brown. Honestly, if I'm A.J. Brown, it wouldn't even be the worst idea if he stayed.
No, and they also have Wicks, Dontavian Wicks, who was good last year, but I think obviously the best case scenario is yeah, AJ Brown stays and then they just slot Mekhi Lemon into like either he's going to be a slot guy. That's what he's going to be.
Yeah,
He's
a
going to be a
thousand
slot
percent.
receiver. 1000%. Like it doesn't even matter if AJ Brown stays here or not. Mekhi Lemon is not your X guy. He's not going to line up outside and go one-on-one with your best DB. He's not. He's going to be a slot guy just from the way that he plays and from what his body type is. But I totally agree with you. I think that he fits this system better than any other receiver in this draft would have in Philly. I think he just with the way that Howie and Nick Sirianni like their receivers to be outside of their number one guy, who we know that they like a big receiver as their number one guy. They have AJ Brown, and then even go back to when they won their first Super Bowl. Their number one guy was Alshon Jeffrey, who's a very big guy. And now we kind of see what they like to do. They like speed. They like a healthy mixture of speed and size in their receiver room. So this just makes me excited to see what they do with him because they were so boring last year on offense. They were trying to run the ball, and Saquon Barkley just wasn't able to get going like he was the previous year. So I'm excited to see what they do with Mekhi Lemon and how they use him on game day because they got to air the ball out more. Because if they do, they're going to be live in the NFC playoffs deep down the road if they just show more versatility in their offense. And I think the Mekhi Lemon pick was an indication that they are going to show more versatility.
Yeah, like this year, their offense was way more predictable than it was in the past. You know, QB sneaks, or the tush push, and Saquon, tush push, and a little quick pass to sometimes AJ Brown, but most of the time Devontae Smith. But let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens. I absolutely love the Baltimore Ravens draft. They're not anywhere near my winners of the draft, but man, did they do a great job on drafting. And you just can never go wrong with edge rushers. And I honestly think this was a steal in the second round, late in the second round. Zion, well, actually, it wasn't late. It was early in the second round. But Zion Young, they drafted him. That was pretty. I think that was a pretty notable pick right there. Zion Young being one of the better edge rushers in this draft. Um, I was pretty shocked of his drop. I really thought, the Buffalo Bills were going to draft Zion Young. But overall, I think it was a terrific draft for the Ravens and Jacoby Lane. I'm high on
Yeah,
Jacoby Lane. What do you
Yeah,
think
me
about
too.
the Baltimore Ravens draft? You gave them an A grade.
Yeah, I think well, the reason why I gave them an A was because of the wealth of like skill position players able to get. Like you said, I love Jacoby Lane too, and if you put on any of his tape from college, it's just like a human highlight reel. And he is a very big guy, but he's also freakishly athletic with massive hands and also enough athleticism and enough speed to create separation between him and a defender without him having to use his physicality. I also love the Elijah Surratt pick. He was great at Indiana. They addressed the receiver room well. That I have to say, Baltimore has been very underwhelming in the Lamar Jackson era. They have consistently been a Super Bowl pick before the season starts, and they usually go out in the divisional round. Sometimes they make it to the AFC title game, but they haven't made it back to the Super Bowl since that 2012 win. And then now they're ushering in a new era, the Jesse Minter era. And it just seems like they finally got really serious about addressing Lamar's receivers early on in the draft, but also they didn't just take one, they took two. And they also still have Zay Flowers on the roster. And they took Matthew Hibner, the tight end from SMU. That was a great pick as well.
They took two tight ends, two tight ends.
Two tight ends. And they also addressed corner with Chandler Rivers, even though he's not, granted, he's not up there with the best corners in this draft. I think the Zion Young pick was probably their best pick just because he shouldn't have been there. If Tennessee had done the smart thing, they would have taken Zion Young instead of Keldrick Falk in the first round. I even would be able to argue that Dallas could have taken Zion Young instead of Malachi Lawrence because they both came from those kind of like not huge school environments and they both played about the same amount of football. So for him to be there for Baltimore, that was great on them to scoop him up. I love
I think it's going to be an app. I think that's going to end up being a steal
me
for the
too.
Baltimore Ravens. I think the Surratt pick also in the fourth round, great value with that pick. That's going to be another steal. I honestly think the Baltimore Ravens just overall did a tremendous job on the weekend.
Me too. And the Vega pick, Iowane, who went
Yeah, we haven't even talked
from
about
Penn
that. Yeah,
State.
out of Penn State. What a pick for your first round to solidify that offense
He
alive.
was like him and Sonny Styles going seven to Washington were like, and besides Mendoza going number one, were like the only three picks that were like, okay, like I've seen that before the draft in terms of like mock-ups on TV or anything like that. Like, and it was a player that fell perfectly to them. And he is somebody that fits the Ravens. I know I'm saying that a lot in this episode, but like go back and look at Iowane's tape from Penn State. He's just a violent blocker, and his penchant is in the run game, which is why Nick Singleton and Katron Allen were such a dynamic duo at Penn State, is because they were also running behind Vega Iowane. Um, I love the pick. I do love the pick, and this to me, this is the Ravens. If I look at all of their picks by taking two receivers, a guard in the first round, Zion Young. They got a couple tight ends along with Chandler Rivers as well. To me, this is them looking at the roster and saying to themselves, okay, we know what we have, and just what we have right now is damn good. But there's still work to do to refine our roster so that we elevate ourselves to that top tier of teams. And I think that that's what Eric DeCosta did before the draft is he looked at the roster and he said, "These are exactly the players we need to take." And guess what? They went out and did just that. They got so much bang for their buck with the Zion Young pick, even the Jacoby Lane pick. Jacoby Lane could definitely justify being, I don't know, a second round, even a late first round receiver. Like I know
100%,
he was never the
1000%.
and I know he was never the number one guy because Kai Lemon was the number one guy. He won the Bolitnikoff Award for the best receiver in college football. But Jacoby Lane was a freak of nature at USC. And he was also going up against Big Ten competition, which is something to note because the Big Ten and the SEC are obviously the two best conferences in college football. So I love the Ravens and the way that they drafted and the way that they looked at the roster and they're like, okay, like these are the players that we are going to take so that we can get over the hump and finally be a true Super Bowl contending team. And they did just that.
They looked at their roster and go, we need depth, depth, and depth after how last season went. Injuries, 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 and next man up mentality, and they're going to be comfortable with all of these players. Obviously, some of them are going to be day one starters, but the later round guys like Chandler Rivers is most likely going to be a depth piece guy. But once he hits that field, he's going to be a star. Let's move to the New York Jets. I think they drafted also terrifically. My favorite pick, I know people are going to say their favorite pick is probably David Bailey, obviously, because he went in the first round, or Kenyon Sadiq. I think it's going to be Omar Cooper Jr. out of or D'Angelo Ponce. I know D'Angelo Ponce is on the shorter side, but he is an athlete. But my favorite pick for the New York Jets or is oh my God, Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. What do you think about the New York Jets? You gave that an A.
Yeah, and I would have given them an A plus if they took Mekhi Lemon at 16 instead of Sadiq. And this isn't me
I
hating
gotta
on
say this
Sadiq.
too. I gotta say Sadiq and Mason Taylor teaming up to be the two tight ends over there in New York is. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, suddenly the Jets have like a pretty competent offense. Granted, their quarterback is Geno Smith, but we're talking Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Omar
Hey,
Cooper.
maybe Cade Klubnik, I don't know, wins the starting job somehow.
Yeah, I'm not talking about K Klubnik. The K Klubnik to me doesn't. It's like it's like Drew Aller going three to Pittsburgh, just a non-factor to me. Guys
It's a
that
non
know enough
Well,
in
actually, we're gonna
college.
talk about that too right after this, actually, because I want to hear your thoughts on Drew Aller
Yeah.
going to the States. But continue, sorry.
No, 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 you're good. You're good for sure. My favorite pick is probably the Omar Cooper Jr. pick as well. At the end of the first round, being able to go out and snatch one of the top five receivers in this draft class. And Omar Cooper Jr., like we know from what we saw, especially in that last year at Indiana, he is a very talented wide receiver who is able to do things physically that a lot of guys aren't able to. He's got great hands. He's a very trustworthy target for his quarterback, which is something that you were able to see with the way that Fernando Mendoza was able to, like the Penn State game this past year, when Omar Cooper Jr. catches the game-winning touchdown pass in the end of the end zone, like right at the edge, both
It just
feet.
showed the athleticism to get that toe in bounds and over that Penn State corner. Terrific
It
play.
it was a terrific play, and it also showed me that he is somebody that his quarterback can truthfully rely on. Like Mendoza put that ball was a prayer in the back of the end zone. And prior to that, Mendoza had already been picked off against Penn State, and it just wasn't looking great for the Hoosiers. But the fact that Mendoza was able to have that next play mentality and then throw that risk into the back of the end zone
His
to
Heisman moment.
that just shows you the fact that Mendoza had a lot of trust in Cooper to go out and make that catch. And I think that Geno Smith is going to have the same kind of mentality about Omar Cooper Jr. when he comes into the wide receiver room. I think the Jets overall got great bang for their buck. The Pons pick to me is wonderful. He's a very feisty, physical guy, and he's able to hang with receivers well. He showed that in college. Um, this just signifies to me that the Jets are finally starting to draft smart. The Jets have never been a smart drafting team. They've continuously made blunders that have gone on to set them back years and years ago. But for the first time ever, the wider sports media is not talking about dread preceding a New York Jets football season after the draft. They're actually talking about, the hope that the Jets are going to be able to take another step forward.
The New York Jets finally have hope for the first time in who knows how long, maybe since Aaron Rodgers arrived for 3 snaps. That was probably the last time this team had some hope.
Honestly, it probably was the last time, but I think Jets fans can now look at their team and say, okay, we drafted super well. We plugged a lot of holes on our roster. We got our number one edge rush guy. We got a receiver who can go next to Garrett Wilson. We have a tight end who is basically a receiver with how good he is at catching the ball and route
Yep.
running. And I think they can look at that and say, now we can focus on getting our quarterback next year. Or you know what I mean? They can look at the foundation of this team and be satisfied knowing that the Jets they seem to be doing things constructively well.
for the first time in a while, the Jets are in a positive conversation. But they do need to go get that quarterback, and it's either I don't know, they're probably most likely going to get a quarterback next year. But let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. We already know Fernando Mendoza going one. That was a great pick. Obviously, you can't go wrong with Mendoza. He's the best quarterback in the draft, and you need a quarterback. But what I really like is that they took the risk on Jermod McCoy. Everyone's been hearing what's been going around that he might need another surgery on his knee. So that's why he fell because he's a first grade talent. If everybody remembers that 2024 season that he played, he was a first round talent. But let's see if he can get back to that playing style because if he can, this is a home run hit for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a low risk, high reward type pick in the fourth round for Jamon McCoy, corner out of Tennessee. But let's hope he honestly does heal because if he does, he's going to be a superstar in this league if he can get back healthy.
Yeah, and with a fourth round selection, like that pick suddenly becomes like a pretty damn good pick because one of the draft's best corners talent wise has fallen so far because everybody is afraid to take a flyer on him due to some injury concerns. That's well worthy of using a fourth round pick on a guy like that. Obviously Mendoza is a great guy. He's going to come in and he's gonna change the makeup of that team with the way that he acts and everything. Traden Stukes from Arizona was not mentioned along with the best safeties in this class ahead of the draft. That was Caleb Downs made up the entirety of the conversation when it came to players in the secondary on defense. But Traden Stukes is a unique safety because he is a ball hawk. Safeties nowadays usually aren't, let's go make a play for the ball first type of players. They like to disrupt things. They use their zoning and their positioning in order to throw the quarterback off or make him look another way. Safeties are not usually known for going up and just getting a ton of picks like they did back in the days when Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu were roaming the field. But Traden Stukes is that kind of guy. Like he could probably play corner in the NFL if you wanted to. Um, I hear a lot of people saying that Malik Benson is a good value pick. I agree with it. I like him. He's a fast guy. He's got good hands as well. I just wish that Vegas would have addressed receiver earlier on in the draft because as of right now, Coker and who's the other receiver? Jalen, not it's not Coker. It's
They have Jalen Naylor on the
Naylor,
team
excuse me.
and they also have Trey Tucker, and they also have Batch.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's not great, and I
no, it's
really
not.
wish that they would have gone ahead and used that second round pick.
But
I
let's go
annoyed
back
just
to Stukes for a second because the Raiders did trade for Taron Johnson this past offseason. But Stukes is the long-term answer, and he's most likely going to be the nickel corner. Then he's going to be playing nickel over there for the Raiders. But he gets to play alongside Taron Johnson. I think that's a terrific pick. And this defense, if you on paper, this Las Vegas Raiders defense is coming together ginormously. It's starting to shape up to be a pretty scary defense, especially how lucky they were to get back Max Crosby. This team could be very good. On the offensive side, though, they don't like, yeah, you have Brock Bowers, but besides that, your passing game is just not going to be there. I like Trey Tucker. I like Jalen Naylor too. But they're not like threats to a corner. But you do have Ashton Genty there. You do have Brock Bowers. You're going to go get a star receiver next year in next year's draft, most likely, or even next offseason. And you just addressed the receiving room earlier. This team could have been scary right now. And I really liked how they took Mike Washington, the running back out of Arkansas, to be probably he's most likely going to be the RB right behind Ashton Genty. He's going to have to work his way for that a little bit. But if he does that, this offense is shaping up. Got the franchise quarterback, got the franchise tight end, got a great offensive line shaping up. And did I already say you have a franchise running back? All they need is they need probably two. Honestly, if they just get one, receiver in next year's draft early on in the first round, and they get a franchise receiver to go be paired up with Trey Tucker and Jalen Naylor, this team is going to be scary.
I agree. I think they should have done it this year. I think they made a pretty decent mistake in not taking a receiver with their
Well,
third
they
round
didn't
pick.
really have to this year because this year's is
Oh, but
not.
like,
Next
look at
year's draft, man, is stacked of receivers,
yeah, but
and
we've seen
and those receivers compared to these receivers this year, those receivers next year are probably going to end up being 10, 15, 100 times better than these receivers, minus Makai Lemon, Denzel
uh,
Boston, Carnell Tate, and let's see if Jordan Tyson can stay healthy.
I don't agree with that just because I feel like you can find really great receivers all throughout like the middle rounds, and then I'm just looking. So they picked 67th in the third round.
Yeah.
Jacoby Lane was available. Elijah Surratt was available. Like, why would they not take a flyer? You know, I get they got Karen Crawford, he's an edge guy, but like their defensive line, if anything, is one of the main strengths of their team. Fernando Mendoza needs guys to throw to, and I feel like next year, yeah, like I feel like
But
we
Mendoza's not going to be
say
playing this year. He's probably going to be sitting on the bench behind Kirk Cousins all year. So honestly, if they tank and they're really bad this year, next year they have a chance to get Jeremiah Smith.
I don't think they will unless they get the number one pick. Like Jeremiah Smith, as of right now, is going to go number one next year, and I
But that's what I'm
don't
saying. If they tank, they're going to be tanking for the first overall pick, and they're most likely going to get it because if they just lose, and with this roster they're constructed now, they put Jeremiah Smith in this roster next season. Oh my gosh,
I don't think they're going to be able to get it. I really don't. Just because like we've seen teams try to tank and then somehow they still win games and like
that is true.
I think and this is why I think it was a bit of an issue. They should have taken a receiver in this draft. And like I there's only going to be one team that gets Jeremiah Smith next year, and that is going to be the team that is the worst in the NFL this year. And I think the Raiders are fairly set up for success. And I do think Mendoza will play a little bit. He won't play a lot. If anything, he's going to play like garbage time, things like that. But like I don't think Kirk Cousins is not as bad as Geno Smith. And Geno Smith was bad enough to get them the number one pick this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a top 10 pick next year, but it just seemed to me like I wish for Mendoza and also for their fans they took a receiver earlier on in that third round.
They can get a good receiver into Cam Coleman. Nick Marsh is
Jacoby
next year.
Lane,
I would take Cam Coleman. Bro, Cam Coleman's a good football player.
he's a damn good football player, and that's somebody that would have fit in well with the Raiders because as of right now, the number one pick
Well, Cam
is
Coleman is next year's draft. Like I'm looking at this next year's draft. I honestly think this receiving core for like these prospects, these receiving prospects next year, minus Ryan Williams because he really fell asleep this year. Next year's draft class for receivers is stacked. You got Nick Marsh there too. You got Mario Craver too. Omarion Miller, Charlie Becker. And I haven't even said Jeremiah Smith's name yet in that sentence. This draft, this that receiving core is going to probably those couple of names are going to have way better careers than Jacoby Lane. Probably Omar Cooper Jr. Even though
should
he's
we
terrific.
should we make this the show bet?
I'm down to make it the show vet.
We make this the show bet that like it's gotta be like a 5 year bet. Like
Let's
we got
do let's do rookie contract bet. Like their rookie contract. So what, 4 or 5 years?
yeah, so 2031, we're gonna revisit the bet. We're
I'm
gonna
down
re
for that.
we're gonna revisit the bet.
The
Take
players that I could tell you now though, the players that will for sure be better than this next year's draft class is going to be Denzel Boston, Makai Lemon, and Carnell Tate. Those guys right there are going to be way better than anyone, me minus Jeremiah Smith. Jordan Tyson is a question mark because we've seen him. If he plays healthy, he plays at a top five level in
yeah.
college football. But when he's hurt, it derails his entire season, obviously injured, but it derails him because even when he comes back, he's slow for the first couple of games. If he stays healthy at a consistent rate, those receivers I just named are going to be a lot better than that receiving core next year. But in the later draft, like Jacoby Lane and the guys like Amar Cooper, and I don't even know Amar Cooper. Amar Cooper could be very good too. Don't get me wrong. But I still think Cam Cole and Jeremiah Smith, and if Ryan Williams People want to write him up, but if he wakes up next year like he did in his freshman year, that could be one hell of a draft class for just receivers.
Hey, we got the bet going. That's all I'll say. But I will say one thing about like the about the Raiders in particular, because like getting back to what we were talking about how they didn't take a receiver. Why bank on the fact though that like, oh, we could just do it next year, even though like in
That is
football
true. Yeah, that is true.
nothing is certain. Like I feel like they should have just taken a flyer on a guy, even if they weren't sure. Just take somebody this year. Like they had a lot of like that third round pick, man. Like that. And Karen Crawford might be the best edge rusher in the NFL that I've ever seen ever, and he might shut me the hell up. But as of right now, I still feel like they could have used that third round pick on some other guys that would have made the
Yeah,
offense
like a guy
a
that's been
little more
better in
scary.
college and you like you know what you're getting. Basically a
Yeah.
comfortable pick. A little bit of a project, but yeah,
Mhm.
Malik Benson is not that guy, you know, like he's a project developing quarterback to take 2 to 3 years, and if after 2 to 3 years, and if he ends up being nothing, you're gonna see this guy passed around the league in 3 years. But let's move on to
Can I ask you a question real
oh
quick?
yeah, go ahead.
Just to get your opinion. Um, if I can remember the damn question now. Move on. I'll ask it. I'll ask it when I remember it.
All right. But let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys. My Dallas Cowboys. Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is a cowboy. I am Caleb Downs is a cowboy. The Dallas Cowboys drafted Caleb Downs at the 11th spot, the 11th overall pick. The 11th overall pick.
I remember my
Um,
question.
oh, you got the question. Let's hear it.
Yes, I do, and I have to ask it before I forget it again.
Mhm.
Who's the worst team as of right now after the draft? Like, who do you think is going to be better, the Cardinals or the Raiders?
I think the Raiders are going to be better off than the Cardinals.
I agree. The Cardinals are going to be the type of
I
team
think they steward their
contention.
own draft. I love Jeremiah Love. We said it after the first round, a couple episodes, like literally last episode. Love Jeremiah Love. That fit is terrible. He's going into such a terrible situation. That team, that Cardinals team, they ruined. Like they actually messed up this draft with taking Jeremiah Love in the third overall pick.
They did, and honestly, that is the type of team that in my opinion, is actually bad enough to get Jeremiah Smith. Like that's how bad you have to be in the NFL. And the Raiders were that. Like they're not far removed from being that bad. But after the way that this draft played out, and then looking at the fact they still have Kirk Cousins who's gonna start the year, I don't think they're gonna be as bad as they were this past year. I think Tennessee and Arizona are definitely gonna be worse. I think the Jets are gonna be a bit more. I'm not gonna, yeah, they're gonna be worse. They're gonna be worse. But I think the Raiders are gonna land in like the 7 to 9 pick of next year's draft.
I could see that. I agree with you on that one. But let's get back to the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys here. Caleb Downs is a Cowboy. Just gotta say it one more time. Caleb Downs from Ohio State is a Cowboy. The, we've had the conversations. The best defensive player in the draft. One of the best defensive players in the draft. Top three defensive players in the draft. Caleb Downs drops to 11th. Dallas Cowboys trade up one. Aggressive right there. So now this is where like, you gave the Dallas Cowboys a draft grade of A. I think the Cowboys drafted well. Um, Malachi Lawrence.
Mhm.
I really wanted either Zion Young or if not him, I would have been okay with Keldrick Falk. With Malachi Lawrence, he's going to be a depth piece on the edge, a project player, but he has a lot of upside. He has a lot of raw mobility coming off of the edge. The one thing I don't like is like how bad that defense was last year. When I take a little, like, I'm gonna call it a project player, even though he couldn't. He might just be an absolute stud right off the gate. But what these eyes are seeing, he's gonna be a 1 to 2 year project player. But why take that project player when you could go get Zion Young or Keldrick Falk? Because to be honest, even though I'm not really high on Keldrick Falk either, and you're not either, but
No.
he is ready to play NFL football out of college. Same with Zion Young. Malachi Lawrence still has a learning curve to do. Why take the why take that? A little bit of project player there. I think he's going to be a good player once he gets over that learning curve. Also, you got the Michigan edge, Barham. Don't
That's
know
a
when I like him. Another depth piece. Depth is what Dallas lacks. And them getting two edge rushers in this draft gets some comfortability for that defense, especially the league's worst defense, especially beyond Caleb Downs. And they make a great trade to get D. Winters. I think D. Winters is a solid player, not terrific, solid, little bit of a gritty player, gets the job done. And you know what the Dallas Cowboys need? Players that get the job done. Caleb Downs, he gets the job done. Overshown gets the job done. Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, they get the job done. D. Winters is going to get that job done also. Now, going in the later rounds, drafting Devin Moore out of Florida. If I was the Dallas Cowboys, I would have just taken the risk on Jermod McCoy. But I'm not Jerry Jones, and I'm not that scouting department. They see something better, and um, and But they drafted also another edge rusher late in the later in the draft, in the fourth round still, because they had three picks in the fourth round. LT Overton from Alabama. That's three edge rushers just in this draft. They didn't even draft a single linebacker.
I was gonna say right now, like, why wouldn't they have used? Okay, like the Malachi Lawrence pick. Yeah, I get it. He's got a lot of upside, which is why they used a first round pick on him. But if you like, why not look at C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia, who was the Colts' first pick,
Or
and
Anthony
he is
Hill
gonna.
Jr. Be aggressive. Go get in that second round and draft Anthony Hill Jr. Or
Yeah,
Jacob
like,
Rodriguez. Be aggressive. You got needs on this team. You don't need to draft three edge rushers. Trust me, I like how they drafted. These guys look very good in college. But let's see how that translates to the National Football League.
but it's
This is the
no.
pros, baby. This is the pros.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
might not translate.
No, and it also is no different than just taking three quarterbacks and just wasting picks on three quarters. Like, what do you need freaking three edge rushers for? I get they're trying to make up for the Micah Parsons trade, but like Overshown, his health is never steady. He never plays a full season. Why not take a flyer on a guy like CJ Allen or Anthony Hill Jr., who can come in and supplement his absence and put up good numbers and help with the run game and all that? Like, that was the one issue to me, was that they could have drafted a bit better with their second first round pick. The first one, number 11, you got to go Downs. If he's available, you go down, especially if you're the Cowboys and you had teams throwing on you like last year. Right pick was to take Caleb Downs. But the Malachi Lawrence pick, the upside is definitely there. It's just going to take a lot of work because he's really raw. And not for nothing, like, he did play at UCF, and they don't see the same competition that a guy like, Anthony Hill Jr. does at Texas, or CJ Allen, who played in the SEC with Georgia. So I think overall Dallas did well. It's just they're one side of the team needs a lot more help than the other, and their offense is very explosive. It's very fun to watch. The defense is the complete opposite. It needs work. And they went out and they did a lot of work on their defense, and they took guys who they think are going to be good players for them. It's just there's a bit more risk than I would say. Let's just say that they're taking a bit of a shot in the dark with some of these picks. Let's just say that. But like, they have no choice but to, address the defense. I just don't see why they should take three edge rushers and then not take a single linebacker, where they needed help all over the defensive side of the ball.
I I agree. It's like that was a shock to me. But Caleb Downs is a terrific pick. But being how
Yeah.
aggressive they were this past weekend with bringing in D Winters too. I think he's a solid player. Um, But yeah, not addressing the linebacker need really hurts. Really hurts. They addressed the corner in the fourth
It
round at Devin Moore.
was strange.
What's up?
It was no, it was just strange to me, like how they didn't view the linebacker position as like a positional need where like overshown for how good he is just so brittle. Like the guy was hurt in college too, so I
But
just
man,
don't
when
understand why they
Overshown
wouldn't do that.
plays, man, when Overshown plays, man, he lights the lamp. But that's what I have a problem with is not staying healthy. Stay healthy, man. Invest in your body because it is time to be a contributor into that defense
But
for a full
but even
season.
if
We
he
need it. The
can't,
Dallas Cowboys did. But here I
yeah.
think I think the Dallas Cowboys just got boosted from 7 wins to 8 wins. Just one more win. Just because this defense now, how young it is now, and even though they still got Quinn Williams and Kenny Clark, they're overall young in the secondary. And they're obviously now young, super young at the edge rushing position. This defense can only improve just that bit with Caleb Downs because Caleb Downs is a safety. Okay. He's still going to help out the secondary, but the team is young. We're about to see a lot of learning curves on national television next season. And I believe that. I don't think
Yeah.
the Dallas Cowboys are going to make the
I
playoffs. I think they're going to be, I for sure think in 2027, 2028, if they're not competitive, that's going to be a disappointment. But next season, I, 8 wins.
I think there's a like a 65% chance you guys make the playoffs because I think you guys got better than some of the other teams in your division
All they
after
have
the
to do,
draft. I think
all the Dallas Cowboys defense has to do is just be middle of the table. That offense is going to be explosive. Minus that George Pickens debacle that's happening. It seems like every single offseason there's a new storyline that Jerry does not want to pay money to a good football player that just proved himself on a 1 year deal. But you know what? We need to see a little bit more. We need to see a 10,000 trillion yards from you next season, 55,000 touchdowns from you next season, and on top of that, 1 million catches throughout one season. If for Jerry Jones to pay you, you need to do the impossible for Jerry Jones to spend the money on real game time players. Pay Jerry Jones. I pay Jerry Jones. Pay George Pickens, man. Pay him. So, but when this season, this offense is not going to skip a beat. They're going to be terrific. The defense on the other side, they just got to be middle of the pack for the Dallas Cowboys to make the playoffs. But I just don't think they're going to be a middle of the pack. Yes, they got better, but it doesn't take a lot to get better when your defense is bottom of the league.
it's just the fact that Jerry didn't look at Overshown and think to himself like, okay, like if it is pretty well a given at this point that this guy's not going to play a full season, why would I not take a linebacker? Like I don't know why Jerry, as the acting general manager and owner, didn't do something like that. Because I think Overshown was an older guy coming out of college too, I believe. But Jerry, why would you not do that? Like, why would you not take a player who you know is going to play this year because Overshown is going to get hurt? Why would you not take a player like CJ Allen, who is, like he helped lead that linebacker core, and for a little bit of his career, he was essentially like the leader of that Bulldogs defense, which is a pretty prestigious honor to have. Um,
1,000%.
knowing what the Bulldogs represent in terms of defensive football. But why not do that? A guy who can just come in and then even maybe if Overshown is there, be the leader of that defense. Like be the guy because I don't think you want Caleb Downs to be the leader of your defense. Maybe in terms of like
No, I think with his IQ, he could be the leader of the defense, but not right now.
I think ideally you'd want your edge rusher or your linebacker to be the leader of
Well,
your
yeah,
defense.
you always want your linebacker to be the green dot, but with a player like Caleb Downs and the IQ he has, it wouldn't
Mhm.
hurt too much. But let's move on. We got to move on. The Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys, even though I love talking about the Dallas Cowboys,
Yeah.
I could talk about them all day long. But let's move on to, because we only have a couple more teams we're going to be talking about. Because there's so many teams. But by the way, guys, for the full draft grade for Nick Tazio's draft grades, it's going to be posted on the Instagram of the Daniel Federico Show. But let's talk about the Buffalo Bills here. You gave them a B minus.
Yeah.
I like the TJ Parker selection in the second round. I like it. I like TJ Parker from Clemson. But after that, I don't really like much. People are high on Skyler Bell. He played at University of Connecticut. The Do you know the type of corners he played against and the type of defense he's played against for most of his college career? Bad.
Oh yeah.
Bad. So his tape obviously is going to look awesome, and people are going to say that's a steal of the draft. In my eyes, I think when you're talking receiver, you gotta go how the route running is. Skyler Bell, he got route running. I'll give him that. He's a pretty efficient route runner at times. But also you gotta go look at who is guarding him and what defensive scheme and what defensive players are on that defense. Just what defense they're playing against. And he was not playing against anybody great. It's just simple as that. There's no lie there. He just wasn't playing anyone great. Skyler Bell is a great athlete, good receiver, not great receiver, and he's not a steal of this draft. So I see Buffalo Bills fans going, "Oh, steal the draft, Skyler Bell." They said the same thing about Coleman, and now they hate his guts. They're just gonna hate this guy's guts in 2 years because they're gonna be like, "Well, this guy was awesome in college. Yeah, he played at UConn. UConn plays no competition, and they're still bad." So let's just have the conversations that people don't like to have. Their best pick is TJ Parker out of Clemson. Um, who else? I'm trying to think. They made one more selection. I forget. But TJ Parker's for sure the best.
I think it says something about what I think about the Bills that my favorite pick was their fifth rounder who they took at pick number 181, Zane Durant, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
yeah, Zane Durant. Zane Durant is a terrific football player, and that, if anyone wants to say steal for the Buffalo Bills, that's the steal.
Yeah, and they got a guy who played against really good competition, against really good running backs, and they took him because they really need interior D-line help because teams, when they ran through the middle of Buffalo's D-line, would get major yardage on their run. It was honestly really hard to watch. Um, Sure, the Parker pick is good. I don't mind the Parker pick. I wish they went receiver with one of their picks in the second round. I think TJ Parker is fine. I think Peter Woods is a better player. I think them trading out of the first round was a bit foolish when there were other players that were better players that they could have got at better positions in the draft. Like they traded out of the first round like three different individual picks to go to pick number 35 at the beginning of the second round and take TJ Parker when they could have taken I believe, hold on one
They
second. Let me
they, they could have taken C.J. Allen. They
they
could
could
have
have
taken Zion Young.
they could have taken Zion Young
They
and
they, they could have taken who else could have they taken? Everybody was high on Jacob Rodriguez, even though it would have been a little too high for him to go. But it doesn't matter. But edge rusher wise, they could have picked Zion Young
I don't know
over.
why Buffalo didn't stay at 28 because they drafted out of 26 to go back to 28
And if
and they
they're gonna
traded
take
with
a player,
Houston.
if they were yeah like that selection, they could have picked Keldrick Folk.
Or how about Omar Cooper Jr., who went
Yeah,
two
oh
picks
yeah, a
to
receiver,
our
yeah,
Jets?
yeah.
Like, cause like Omar Cooper Jr., like he has the capabilities to be a number one guy, but as of right now, I don't think any team was drafting him knowing that they're gonna put Omar Cooper Jr. as their number one receiver. No, the number one receivers of right now in Buffalo, even though it may not be the smartest decision, is DJ Moore. And that is due to seniority. That's due to what he has done in the league, which is very impressive things. He essentially helped Caleb Williams get his sea legs under him in Chicago after a rough couple of, starts in his first and even in his second year last year. DJ Moore was a reliable safety outlet for him, but I don't see why Buffalo wasn't able to take a flyer on a wide receiver earlier on, in particular Omar Cooper Jr., who is somebody who would have been able to come in and be the Z or the wide receiver, depending on where you wanted to put Khalil Shakir. And they still have Keon Coleman on the roster, but I think adding another top tier pass catcher earlier on in the draft would have been a boost of reassurance, certainly for the fans, but also I think for the Bills themselves.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. But we got to move on. I think the Bills, though, first. The Bills, even though I'm going to get hate for this, I'm going to get so much hate for this. Yeah, they drafted James Cook. Yeah, they drafted Josh Allen. Yeah, they drafted Knox and Kincaid. They still can't draft though. Brandon B cannot draft.
No, they've done things before and they've missed on players that they shouldn't have missed on, and they've just taken players that they shouldn't have taken. And it's come back to bite them in ways, well, you'll playoff, the way that they go the way that they bow out of the playoffs year after year is usually a sign of Brandon Beane not being able to draft
You would
players
think
well.
you would think this, like yeah, Bills are a good football team. There's no question about it. When you have Josh Allen at the helm, you're going to be a terrific football team year in and year out with Joshua Allen at the helm, James Cook. The receivers, you know, have been a conversation on where they lack for a couple of years now. DJ Moore, they trade for him. That's good. I like DJ Moore. I'm a DJ Moore fan. A lot of people are not high on DJ Moore. I'm pretty high on DJ Moore. I think he's going to be a good option one for Josh Allen. Then right after that, Shakir? Coleman? Palmer? What are we doing here? If there was a team that needed a star receiver now and couldn't wait for next year, like how I'm saying the Raiders could wait for next year because no one has high expectations. Half of Canada and the New York State, or half the New York State, especially the city of Buffalo, have high expectations for the Bills to win a Super Bowl in this Josh Allen era. You go out and get a receiver in that first round. You don't ever trade out of that first round. When you need players, yeah, you have Kincaid as the tight end. He's terrific. Knox is the backup. Is Knox still there? Yeah, he's the backup
Yeah,
still.
Knox is still there.
Yeah, so Knox is the two option is great. DJ Moore, Shakir, Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore is left. I'm pretty sure now. If not, I'm pretty sure. Can't remember, but
He didn't do much when he was there anyway.
still, Coleman, Shakir, Palmer, Omar Cooper Jr. would have cracked this roster as receiver three, unless Coleman wants to finally decide to wake up and play like he did at FSU. Omar Cooper Jr. They could have used like Sky Bell is going to get a lot of opportunities in this Buffalo Bills offense just because the other receivers minus DJ Moore stink. And that's the honest truth. And if he does prevail to be great, I'm not even gonna have an argument anymore. I'm gonna eat my words, but I'm gonna be like, yeah, the level of competition you play against doesn't matter unless you can run a clean route and catch the football. Because if Skylar Bell becomes good, my words, what I said before, don't mean nothing.
It's definitely a long shot. I don't see how Bills fans can be fully confident in saying that Go Sky Bill is the steal of the draft, knowing that they probably should have done something about receiver much earlier on.
Much earlier. But let's move on to the Tennessee Titans. You have them at a C plus grade, and my opinion, I think it's an all right draft. C plus, very is worthy of C plus just because what they did in the later rounds. Overall though, if I had to give it the lowest, it would just be a B, B minus at that. Just
Yeah.
because Carnell Tate's a terrific football player, that's going to help out Cam Ward. Keldrick Falk though, at the 31st spot, is great value for Keldrick Falk. Even though I'm not high on him, that's terrific. Anthony Hill Jr., my favorite. This is why I'd give it a B minus. He's my favorite player in this draft, Anthony Hill Jr. When he's healthy, he's an absolute force to be reckoned with. And then now this is where it drops. After those three picks, I like to say it drops. I like Coogan, the center from Indiana, former Notre Dame guy. So that's why I've seen a lot of him. I've seen him play a lot for the last couple of years. And then he goes to Indiana. He had a terrific season. I like that pick. I think that could be a little bit of a steal. But the one thing is, when you're playing the center position, you're going up against guys that got to feed their families now. You're not going up against these 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. Let's see if that Indiana center can do the job. Because we know he can do it in college. Let's see if he can do it now. That's the question mark. But like to be honest, after Anthony Hill Jr., nothing really goes, yeah, that's a great pick. Everything goes, All right, let's wait and see how that goes. Because Anthony Hill Jr., when he's healthy, you're going to get a dog. Keldrick Falk, if he, you know, gets over the learning curve, I'm saying this because since the draft, I think I've watched a lot more Keldrick Falk film than I probably did before the draft, and I watched a shit ton, I gotta say, of Keldrick Falk film before the draft. But now it feels like I've watched every single play, every single snap this guy played in college, and how many times it has popped up on my feed. If he gets over a little bit of a learning curve, he's going to be a terrific football player. And then we know Carnell Tate. He's going to be a star in the
Yeah.
National Football League, and he's going to help out um, Cam Ward. And they got that Canadian receiver too, Aomeyer, that's going to be right beside him. Um, but also Singleton from Penn State, or the running back, Nick Singleton. I think it's great value for him in the fifth round too, especially being a running back. And he honestly, he could turn into something. He can turn into be a beast. But like I said, after Anthony Hill Jr., it's all let's wait and see and how it finds out. Let's see what their development is like in the National Football League. It's all wait and see. What do you think about the Tennessee Titans draft?
Pretty like along the same lines as you. Like Falk he's got a lot of potential, but he's just so raw and he's a project. If he becomes himself back in 2024 and is able to like, or if he's able to build on that and become more pro ready, along with utilizing the same traits and skills that saw him dominate in 2024, he's going to be just fine. And that pick, number 31, is going to be looked at as a freaking steal. Carnell Tate going at number 4. Look, I get it. Like I do. I really get the logic and I get what Borgonzi and the rest of the front office in Tennessee were thinking. Like we got to get Cam Ward his guy. Let's go out and get him his bona fide number one receiver on his rookie contract, somebody that's reliable, somebody that played a lot of football in college, and even somebody who is a little bit selfless. Well, that's Carnell Tate. The reason why I have them at C plus is I can't help but feel like they should have taken an offensive lineman with that fourth pick because no matter what, Cam Ward is going to have Carnell Tate as an option to throw to, but as of right now, he's still going to be running for his life in the backfield.
What
And
one
a
hundred
lot
percent.
of a lot of Cam Ward's, like if you go and look at his highlights from last year, and this isn't me being mean, there weren't many, and that's because he was trying to acclimate to the pros, playing behind a virtually no offensive line. And his highlights from last year, his touchdown throws, the things that people liked, well, they came off the heels of him scrambling around for 15 seconds after he snaps the ball. So I can't help but feeling like, yeah, he's got Carnell Tate to throw to, but he's still going to be running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to find Tate in space to throw to. So I don't know. Like I love the Tate pick. He's going to be there for a long time, and if he becomes Cam Ward's number one guy, it's gonna be good vibes in Tennessee. I just feel like Cam Ward deserves a little bit more protection in the trenches.
I think that's going to come with just a couple more years. And obviously, when you have a rookie quarterback and you're high on a rookie quarterback and you're high on Cam Ward, like that franchise is, I think you just put him in a terrible situation. I think if you're going to put a quarterback in a terrible situation, the next draft you better, better draft all offensive line. Like, there's no question about it. If you're gonna put a quarterback, a rookie quarterback, in a terrible situation, you better not put him behind guys that can't block. That seems like they just played football for the first time. But we got to end this. But first, before we end it, I want your three winners of the draft and your three losers of the draft quickly.
Okay. My three winners of the draft are going to be the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, and I'm going to say the Baltimore Ravens over the Philadelphia Eagles. And then my three losers are, and this is in no particular order, are the Buffalo Bills, the Arizona Cardinals, and then I will go ahead and I will say that I don't think the Miami Dolphins made out too well. After like the Proctor pick is a lot more wait and see and let's hope that he becomes what we want him to become. And I just feel like they are so decimated as a roster, and they're even taking a chance on signing Malik Willis to that big contract where yeah, I don't think Miami made out as good as they should have made out in the end. I yeah, I would say those are my three losers, but by far the best pick for Miami was Chris Johnson, the corner from San Diego State, who was so good this entire college football season. Very rangy guy, very calm, very good in zone and man coverage, lengthy, got good hands. He's got it all that you want as a corner, your first corner in your new era with a new head coach with just so much to rebuild on. So that's my favorite pick from them. But yeah, my three winners are the Browns, the Ravens, and I think I said the New York Jets. And then my three losers are the Bills, the Cardinals, and the Miami Dolphins.
I got to ask you this too. I want
Yep.
three best picks throughout the entire draft. There's a lot, but three of your favorite picks from this past draft.
Philly trading up to get Makai Lemon at 20. Dallas trading up to get Caleb Downs at 11. And then, hmm, if you give me 1 second, I
I'll give
will.
you as much time on the clock as you
You know
need.
what? The Ravens taking Zion Young at 45. That was huge. That's my three. Those are definitely my three favorite. Actually, no, 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 no.
Honorable mention is could be Zion Young, but who's the actual third?
Ruben Bain going 15 to Tampa Bay.
I was about to say, we haven't talked about Ruben Ban at all, but I actually know we did it last week.
Yeah, we did.
Last week. But yeah, one hell of a value of that pick. But I'm Daniel Federico. That's Nick Tazio. This has been the Draft Chat. You can catch all of Nick Tazio's draft rankings, grades, not draft rankings. You can catch all of Nick Tazio's grades on the draft on the Daniel Federico Show Instagram. And Caleb Downs is a Dallas Cowboy. God is good. Good is God. Or God is great. Great is God. Let's go. Caleb Downs is a Dallas Cowboy. This has been the Daniel Federico Show.